Lobby's been opened up. Everybody's in, correct?
Yes.
Recording started, Mary Jo.
Yes.
All right, so we will go ahead and bring the Columbia 911 Communication District Board of Directors meeting starting at 0901. Called to order. We have Brian here, Shelley, Henry, myself physically present, and Jeff is virtual. Jeff, confirming you can hear us.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. You can introduce staff if you'd like.
Staff is present, Nathan, Burks, Mary Jo, and Danelle joined us online.
And Danielle, how is the audio sounding online?
I think it sounds great. Really good.
Thank you. So we will start with public comments. Start on the floor. Anyone physically present? None? Online, are there any public comments?
See anybody unmuting or raising their hand?
Okay, I'll just pause a second in case a hand pops up. Nothing? All right. We'll move on to approval of the January 23rd, 2025 regular business meeting minutes.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of those minutes as presented.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes as presented. All those in favor, any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. And I see we have appointment of new advisory committee members since we have a new chief in Clatskanie. I see here it is, the committee is recommending, or the request is to have Bruce Holsey, who is the current fire chief for Clatskanie, with the alternate of Joe Thorpe. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move approval of both Chief Holsey and Joe Thorpe for the Clatskanie representatives.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Jeff. Financial reports.
Mickey is at a conference in Salem this week. She explained everything in her report. If you have any questions, I can definitely take those back to her and have her get back to you when she returns.
Mr. Chair, would it be all right if we just kind of held this over and let her report on both next month? So that we can approve them while she's here if there is questions, rather than kind of trying to route messages through Mary Jo or.
That's the board's.
No issues with that as long as it doesn't hold anything up. I don't think it does, right?
Just have to remember for the agenda to.
Yeah, just like we don't have a meeting in a month, we just
Right,
do two
yeah.
back to back. But so just a quick question for anyone that has a chance to preview, nothing they feel they want to be brought up or questioned. It's up burning in the packet. All right, so we will go ahead and table the financial reports for the next meeting.
Except for the budget officer. Correct. Position, yeah.
Which brings you, Henry.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to announce that Steve Reed, who's been our budget committee member for Zone 3 for a few years now, has agreed to serve in that position again, and therefore I'd like to nominate Steve to continue on as Zone 3's budget committee member.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to appoint Steve Reed to board budget member Zone 3. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes. Operations Manager Report.
Hello. Yes, I've got a few things to discuss today. So staffing, we are currently at 12, two of which are in training. Since we last met, the two that started on January 6th were given a last minute opportunity to go to DPSST. I think they found out the Thursday before the Monday that it started that there was an opening, and they were both willing to go and take advantage of that. They graduated last Friday and did very well with very positive feedback from the academy. We have two applicants that are in the final stage of hiring. One of them has actually just completed that last step, and one is going to complete it tomorrow. We're looking at a March 10th or possibly the 17th for a start date. We have two additional applicants that are in the psychological evaluation phase, and I'm predicting April at the latest, the very early of May. And again, this is a large endeavor that we're taking on. Staff will be having 6 total in training at one time, which is not something that our district has done before, but staff are very dedicated to improving our staffing levels, and it is all hands on deck. Jolene, one of our communication specialists, finished the CTO, the Certified Training Officers course, and so we have another full-time trainer available for us. APCO Western Regional Conference is this next week. It's March 4th through the 6th and in Portland. This is a huge advantage to our district with where we're located. These large Western regional conferences usually involve travel expenses and hotel accommodations. And so we're able to send 7 of our employees for either all or part of the training. And it's really great training. I'm glad that we're able to send them and that we're able to cover the console hours in order to do that. All staff have been kind of looking ahead at spring and summer to upcoming community event opportunities and trying to stay engaged. Since we last met also, we have completed the electrical panel replacement that I'm sure Nathan is going to mention in his report. From an operational standpoint, it really could not have gone any better, and we really are grateful for the support of all of the user groups and this board, as well as Washington County's 911 Center, who hosted Kirby and I for a full 10 hours while we sat there just on the ready for anything to not go well, and everything did go very well. In your packet, you'll see a letter from Chief Smythe with Columbia River Fire and Rescue. He really does mention in the letter all staff, but especially our 2 lead dispatchers, Bree Brogley and Rich Newman. Really, the letter is very, very nice and does really highlight the compassion, respect, and outstanding customer service that they're experiencing around the clock, and our lead dispatchers really going the extra mile. You should have all received that. I think it's very well written, and we appreciate the recognition to our staff. Does anyone have any questions for me today?
Thank you very much. Let's move on to the Technical Manager's Report.
As Danelle mentioned, we successfully repaired our utility meter and our transfer switch on February 5th. There was no power outages in dispatch or the server room. We were very impressed with how smoothly everything went. Watching them, it was like a pit crew. They had 3 guys in our panel at once, all doing something different in there. As you might have saw on your way in, we're replacing our gutters and trim right now. Columbia Northwest was on site. They noted 3 of our BARD units are using an older coolant that we can't easily procure anymore, R22. They recommend that we replace all 3 units. But in the meantime, we could replace one that's leaking. So I was kind of hoping to get some board direction there. On 2/24 at approximately 4 p.m. during all that windstorm, and rain we got. We lost power for a couple seconds twice. Nothing was impacted. The main building lost power, but dispatch in the server room stayed online. Magic's mobile design group has decided to move forward with mobile UX. We're still waiting on Central Square to get a patch for the law enforcement side, but we're going to be testing with the fire side here pretty soon. And then same as last month, we are working with vendors to look at remote monitoring of our generators and fuel tanks at our radio sites and looking to get looking to update our security system at our radio sites.
I went ahead and put the HVAC under new business.
Okay.
So we have some discussions there and give you a little bit of time to prep if you want to present for that. Any questions for Nathan on the technical manager's report? Okay, the next one, committees reports. The voting zone committee is actually just received some information. Jeff, I just recently received that myself, and I'll make sure you get your copy so we can set a time in a meeting to go over it.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's going to be our first meeting now that we have the information we've requested. I think personnel committee, anything to report?
We're gonna be meeting this right after this meeting, Shelley and I and Brian, to go over the hiring packet for new executive director. And one of the suggestions that was made, Brian was hoping that we can get this packet out by the next week, I guess, is what his hope was. The thing that has not been studied, I mean, the packet is, there's a draft copy here of everything that, includes the language except for the benefit package. And I'm suggesting, if the board approves, that the personnel committee meet with Brian this afternoon or right after this meeting, and we establish a salary range for this, and then he can get it out next week. If we don't establish a salary range for the executive director position, it's going to delay, perhaps by another month, getting this job announcement out, which is going to put us another 30 days behind. So I guess my only thought is, and Shelley, if there's anything I've missed on that, is that if the board's comfortable with that, we can establish that salary range based on the data that's been that Brian has going to provide us after we're done here. Do we need a vote on that?
That's it. With that, entertain a motion to authorize the personnel committee to finalize the salary range for the executive director position in the next meeting, so we can get it published ASAP.
Second that. I'll second.
Oh, you made the motion. So I was entertaining a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right,
Opposed? Passed. So you're gonna give the personnel committee what you need?
We'll do that right after we're done here today.
Perfect. Moving on to old business, Brian, I'll hand over to you.
Thanks, Rob. The Meisner construction project is actually inching closer to being final. Devils are always in the details, and the final details are sometimes hard to get some traction on, but we'll be visiting the site this afternoon with Day Wireless and Martin Anderson, who's been a long-term active member of the amateur radio group. It's my understanding that, and this will really help with the final phase of this project, that Martin is going to be able to identify the equipment that is still being used by the amateur radio group and Hood to Coast, which is the other co-locator at that site. and be able to identify as well the equipment that's hanging on the wood poles at that site. So as soon as we do that, working with Day Wireless, we'll be able to have Martin and his team, hopeful volunteer team that can come in and assemble the equipment that's currently in their shelter, and transfer that under the supervision is not the right word, but the guidance of Day Wireless on site to make sure that we're putting them in appropriate spots within the shelter and reserving any future use of that site for us. One of the difficulties I think is going to be the funding ability for the amateur radio group. I'm not certain how much money they have and the ability to pay for Day Wireless being able to hang their equipment on the tower, which would require Day Wireless to do that project, and any other work that needs to be done for their specific use at that site. I have invited Corey Padron and he's going to accompany us today just to have the conversation. If there's any funding that meets what the amateur radio group provides the county as far as emergency communications, if he can help with some of the funding that the amateur radio group might not be able to come up with. There'll also be a service maintenance fee that will be assessed at some point with negotiations between our legal counsel and amateur radio group. So I did put a punch list in. I don't want to go over old information, but that's kind of what's left to do is what you'll see in the report. With the exception of the backup generator power has been completed by Merck's and in Power Systems West. I think everybody is kind of in agreement that the shelters need to be replaced. The removal of it's hard to describe unless you see it, but it looks like a World War II bunker. I guess the word was that it used to be a fuel for a merchant ship, a container that they used for a fuel tank, I guess. But it's heavy. I'm not sure how they're going to be able to get it out of there other than cutting it into pieces and hauling it away. But we do want those two old shelters removed, which will allow us to clean the site, grade it to final specifications and the standard that we want to see. We still have to finalize the co-location agreement with Peterkin as the lead on that, working with Kara and Hood to Coast, and then finalize the lease agreement with ODF. But we should be able to hopefully get that done within the next couple months is my hope. Any questions? As far as future site, other build outs, we do have some towers that have been secured surplus by Washington County, I believe, that are being stored for us, and some other equipment that we could do something very similar to what we have done at Meisner. Haven Acres was a site that was recommended by the past director, Mike Fletcher, as a site that definitely needs the same type of attention and build out to make it suitable for what we have up there. I think that will probably be worked into the section that I'll talk about next, and that's the radio upgrade, and we'll kind of see where we are in priorities and where we want to kind of focus on some of the site upgrades. Pisgah Homes, I've talked with some of the fire agencies in the county. They're interested in actually doing some live fire training exercises for wildland firefighting. As it gets closer to that season, they'd like to be able to go up there and actually help us and help them with practical experience, but burn off some of the overgrown brush and grass and everything that's been mounting up there. For us, I think what that would mean is we need to have a contractor to go up and cut some perimeter fire lines to make sure that the fire stays where we want it to, and protect any of the value equipment that we have on site up there. So we'll talk about that more, but I thought that was kind of a win-win for fire agencies to have drills and practice and us for being able to clear that site. The radio upgrade project, we have initiated the process with some meetings with Day Wireless and Ron Pelliconi, retired from Washington County, WACA, to start identifying and moving along with some price estimates to assure that we can create within our system a higher level of stability. So we'll continue with those meetings. I think Day Wireless is working on providing us with some information on what they feel is critical as far as things that are past their life expectancy and need to be replaced. But as we approach this thing to kind of have a strategic plan of improvements or replacement, we'll kind of work toward that, assuring that we're moving with some urgency because I believe that we do need to address some of these things fairly quickly. That we are doing it in a way that's not going to dead end us or put us in a place where it doesn't build for the future of whatever radio systems we produce or have in the future. And that it is actually evaluated by priorities, higher to lower priorities. We address the higher needs first as we move along. Our hope is to have a executive summary for you guys to look at in March, the March board meeting that includes some of the prioritized lists of equipment that needs to be considered to be replaced or serviced, cost estimates, for you guys to be able to look at, review, revise if you want. But just to kind of prepare that document so that we have a good idea of all of the things that we want to look at in a priority. We'd like to be able to proceed again with being able to come to the board with some proposals for approval and start the process of actually procurement, however long that's going to take to actually replace some of the items that we find is critical that need to be replaced. One of the things that we'll look at that's been mentioned before is the radio consoles that are in our dispatch center that are way past their life expectancy. Can't really receive any replacement parts for them without hunting for old consoles that have been removed by upgrades of other districts and or eBay, which doesn't send a good message for us. So that will be probably a priority along with some radio repeater replacements as we move forward. But all that will be kind of borne out in the plan that we come up with. Any questions?
Actually, I'm guessing it's kind of like the consoles. It's kind of like how when we redid the whole microwave side of the radio system, that was agnostic to, it didn't care if it was going to be 800 in the future or VHF.
Right.
It would work either way.
Yeah.
And same with the consoles.
Right. They would be compatible with whatever, they would have some maybe less feature. Well, it depends. We'll have a
They can be
variety.
tweaked down the road,
Yeah.
but they'd be compatible either way.
Right.
Right. And then take it the radio upgrade, mission, this is going to use the base of a survey from Day Wireless and back to our Palin's report. And it's going to take all that into consideration and bring it all up to speed to.
That's right.
Correct.
Yeah, correct.
With Ron also vetting.
Yes, I think we have all of the reports that we need to kind of review and to get an idea of what we need to look at critically. Day Wireless, of course, is going to be a huge asset because they work on our system and they know intimately what we do. Information from the reports, users vetted by us, Ron Pelliconi, in a way that we can kind of establish that plan. So, thank you.
All right. I'm going to see all that come together in one document here. You said April?
Well, we're hoping to have something in March.
March.
It depends a little bit on Day Wireless's ability to help us prepare that list. But we would like to get it done in March and be able to use April as an approval on some of the projects that we need to act on.
Perfect. Thanks.
The executive director recruitment is moving along. We're on track, I think, for the schedule. I did include in your packet a timeline, which I appreciate your guys' action to make sure that we can drop or open that position. I'm sorry, it says here an open recruitment period on the 17th. But that's incorrect. It'll be March 3rd. Our hopeful date to drop that application and post the job. And that will have some effect to what I listed as March 31st when the recruitment period closes, but we'll adjust that. None of these times are critical, except for the 2-day assessments with SCGI, Dr. Hicks, and Ronnie Q. That kind of sounds cool anyway, but I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Anyway, they're very busy, and they've locked in the two timeframes, May 19th and May 20th, to do the 2-day assessment. So whatever happens in fluctuating dates before or after is probably not as critical as just being able to do those assessment centers. I've continued to just contact people that are referred as potential candidates for the hiring process, or they apply. I've talked to 2 individuals so far, one of which is interested in continuing on with the process. So I took that as a good sign. So the service agreements that were included in your package, one from SDAO, which is really just the recruitment and the screening portion of the upfront process. And that agreement will be signed if the board has no objections. And with that, there was also a expanded scope of practice just to see what their $3,000 in their service agreement will get the district. Along with that, we have decided to go with the SCGI as the company, the third party that will actually do the assessment center, and their service agreement is also included in your packet. Any questions?
Do we need to take formal action on these, or because you're within your spending the limit, you can just?
Yep, I'll do that unless anybody has objection.
The only one to clarify is just for the SDAO. It just happens to have my signature on it. But I take it, it's under your discretion and you were authorized to enter into agreement. So if you say, yes, this is it, there's no objection, it being my signature versus Brian's.
Me.
Okay, so Rob, you want me to change that to me and sign it?
No, it's fine.
Okay, all right. And those, by the way, have been reviewed and approved by our legal counsel.
So to make sure everyone else was on board.
Just to let the public know, those were finalized very recently. The board was distributed those this morning, and they will be uploaded to the website after the meeting.
Okay, so these are not online yet,
Thanks, Mary Jo.
but you are going to get them.
Next meeting, they'll be posted.
Perfect. Thank you.
So I think that's it, unless anybody has any other questions from.
No. So on here, we have SGO conference feedback for those who.
I did not go due to weather.
Yes, it was a bit treacherous.
Yeah.
I think,
I couldn't get time off.
Yeah, it was yourself.
yes,
Jeff
myself.
Blatt, and Mickey.
Jeff, you have any thoughts or comments on it?
Yeah, this is the second conference I was able to attend, and some great meetings and just kind of networking with other people. Thought it was very, very good, very valuable, and yeah, the roads were a little treacherous.
Yeah, I'll agree on that. I think I had it over Wednesday night. Came back to the on 22 on Sunday, and it wasn't any better than 26 was on Wednesday.
Well, that's why I was worried about getting there and getting back home. So I just said, Not worth it.
Yeah. But it was a good conference this year. Unfortunately, last minute.
Yeah.
Didn't-
Looking forward to going next year.
Northwest Leadership Seminar. Do your pitch?
Well, at this time, I have Shelley registered. She's good to go. And if anybody is available and has changed their mind and want to attend, I can get that done too. Just let me know.
All right. Any other old business? Hearing none, we'll move on to new business. It's that time fiscal year budget priorities.
Yep, and this is just an opportunity for the board to give us any direction as we prepare to start the budget process. If anything you have to offer now or something you think of, please feel free to email myself, Brian, or Mickey.
I got a feeling the most important thing is we need the report from the radio system for the upgrades to be able to figure out how it's going to impact the budget, especially with the use of reserve funds.
Right.
And how much is going to be available. Any other comments on that? Nope. The roofing repair proposal.
So back in December, we had a small leak show up in the building, was identified very rapidly. We were able to address it without any kind of further damage. The leak was traced to a very small tear in the roofing membrane. That tear was in a particularly vulnerable area. So our building here, it's a modular prefabricated building. There's a number of seams which are very vulnerable because they're where the roof membrane has been welded together, as well as where there is a gap between two of these modular structures that have been connected. So those seams are normally protected by metal, they're called coping or metal capping, depending on who you talk to. In our case, that metal capping has become compromised over the 25-year life of the building. Normally locked together, sealed, and after 25 years, that's worn out. In addition, the metal after 25 years has been a little bit warped as the building settled and as it deals with wind damage. So we contacted a number of roofing contractors as far as best way to approach and fix this problem, and received 3 quotes back. 2 of them recommended replacing the metal. One of them recommended sealing and reusing the metal that we have in place. My thinking about this is best interest of the district is probably to go with one of the full metal replacement quotes, the lowest of which is provided by Phoenix Quality Construction, who is the contractor that's currently working on the outside of the building. Their quote, the thought there with the metal cleaning and reusing what we have versus replacing with new material is really just a question of longevity. The metal that we have is warped, and so sealing it is going to have a larger gap than ideal. Is that possible? Yes, absolutely, but the endurance, the lifespan of that repair is questionable. Probably talking about something that best practices would be redoing every 2 or 3 years. It's doable. It's just going to be an ongoing cost. And there is a question of the lifespan of the roof as well to take into account. If we, worst case, we could end up replacing this roof soon. Ideally not. The membrane appears right now to be in a reasonable shape and has a lifespan of up to 50 years. But we don't know. That could change.
Is this the original roof?
Yes. So it's a very tough membrane. It's expected lifespan is anywhere from 20 to 50 years. So we'll see as we go. My thought with this, best interest of the district, is to go with the more rigorous repair of replacing the metals with new material, as opposed to creating an ongoing maintenance issue. the leak that we had in December, it is worth noting, we were very lucky that it was rapidly identified and addressed. If, you know, further leaks develop and are not addressed quickly, we could be looking at a much more serious and expensive repair.
If we had to replace the roofing material, would we be able to use the new roofing metal stuff? Or would we have to just tear it all off and throw it away? Question one. Question two. What caused the leak? Were you able to identify that? Did something hit the membrane or?
So it doesn't appear to have a traumatic cause. Just over time, the roofing seals under our existing metal caps have failed. Not just in one area, that's actually across the whole roof. So those vulnerable seams are currently exposed to water. The small, gaps showing up in those seams is not an unusual thing. It is an ongoing maintenance concern that can be patched. Because it is so vulnerable, that's normally why you have those metal caps as a protective element.
So when they put the new metal caps on, would they then turn around and reseal all those
Yes.
seams first?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the only other question I have on here is, are any of these local businesses? I mean, I know we've got a couple of major roofing contractors here in South Columbia County and they're not on here.
Yes, American Gutter Service is actually located in St. Helens. They are one of the two companies that has suggested replacing the metals with new. Their quote came in a bit higher than Phoenix's at $15,000. The approach there, Phoenix Quality Construction has suggested using a pleated approach for the metals, so you'd actually have two layers of metal on the roof. Which is done to protect the fasteners. A notable weakness in the metals is that they are attached through the membrane to the roof itself. So those fasteners, if those deteriorate, which is also an issue with our current existing metals, that presents a way that water could intrude into the building. So this cleated approach fastens a cleat initially and then covers that. So the fasteners are protected.
So is what I'm hearing then that by doing this repair and putting this new metal stuff on there and resealing all those things, we're more likely to extend the life of the roof as it sits versus replacement.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Jeff?
Yeah, no questions or comments. I think Henry took care of it.
Henry actually asked the one question I was gonna ask, so.
I think all the information was in there that I was looking for. The other couple questions is, if I recall right, this building is 3 separate modules, correct?
Correct.
So did they inspect the other module seam?
Yes.
And it's okay at this time?
So this would be replacing all 3 modules. The same problem that we had on our main building, which is where the leak was located, is also present in the MIC module and the extension module. They are younger, but they have the same issue of gaps having opened up in the existing metal. So we would like to replace all of these at once, make sure that we're able to extend the longevity of the roof for all 3 structures.
So they'll be addressing the other ones also.
Yep.
At this point in time. The last thing is I just know from experience at work, with these nice roofs, they're like, even just you being under warranty, there's supposed to be a certain amount of maintenance and the fine print down there. Do you know, has that been up to date? And or is that something that they're gonna take care of while they're here to try to maximize like the lifespan of the roof?
So the work that's being described here with the metals is a maintenance item with these roofs. The 50-year ideal claim is, to be clear, not a warranty claim. That is just an expected lifetime of the roof under ideal conditions. That would be conditions that take into account performing maintenance such as this. The leaking seals is absolutely a maintenance item that needs to be addressed.
No other cleaning or specialized cleaning that they want to see done or anything else
So the
with membranes.
part of this, well, it's an interesting question. The gutter work that we're actually doing now is also part of the expected maintenance. Under those ideal conditions, would expect good drainage. So we are working on improving that. As far as it relates to warranties for our existing roof, I do not believe we actually have any warranties that would be legally useful for us at this time.
Correct, yeah, and I'm not expecting this after warranty, just saying that some of the preventive maintenance stuff that kind of unfortunately gets out of mind, just has to be done. And just want to make sure that at least we're probably past warranty and everything else, but at least we're still doing it to maximize the lifespan of the current product.
Absolutely. And that is something that I don't actually have in the language of these quotes when it comes to cleaning it while they're up there. They do describe cleaning the site, but that's something I can absolutely follow up with the contractors on. I'd be surprised if cleaning, that's something I will verify with them.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the contract with Phoenix Quality Construction in the amount of $14,121 for the described repairs.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
And you just said the contingency, correct?
I didn't say anything about a contingency, but
1539.
is there any need for that? I mean, any required contingency, Brian, could.
My apologies there. Our recommendation is to have a 10% contingency with this proposal just for unforeseen circumstances or needs.
Okay, yeah, I didn't see this in the.
My apologies, I did not articulate
That's
that.
all right.
Sorry, it's there on the very bottom.
Yeah, I see it. With said contingency.
All right, really contingency, so it's been moved and you see the second here. Okay. So it's been moved and seconded to approve the bid from Phoenix Quality Construction, including the 10% contingency for a grand total of $15,533. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
All right.
Passes. Next, we added the new business. Nathan, do you have any discussion on the HVAC you wanted to?
Yes.
Board input.
Yeah, so we're in the very early stages. Right now, we have 3 BARD units that are on older coolant R22 that is very difficult to service. There's some alternatives that they can use in our current BARD units, but they're recommending we plan on replacing all 3 units, one of which is leaking coolant. Right now, we have 3 bids, 2 from Columbia Northwest. One is for 1 unit for approximately $18,500. That includes the BARD unit, the crane, the installation. 3 BARD units is $51,600. And we're going to save the crane cost of having to bring a crane out multiple times. And then we have another bid from another company for 1 unit for $24,340. That includes the crane and everything. So we're looking for the board's guidance. Should we look into replacing 1 unit right now and plan on in the future replacing the other 2, or would you like us to save a couple $1,000s and replace all 3 units and get bids for that for our next board meeting?
Nathan, how long has it been since we replaced those units, and are we still, because I know we've replaced some on this building. I don't know if we've replaced them all.
Those ones are our oldest BARD units to my knowledge. Do you?
How many do we have?
I'm gonna check if I got a year on those real quick, but
Because it doesn't feel like that many years ago we replaced some of them.
Yeah, we recently replaced two over at Klatskanai. That might also be what you're thinking. We replaced.
There was one here though that's recently been done.
Yeah, dispatch was replaced, I think, right before I started, about 5 years ago. This, the two BART units on this MIG are both R22. They're running okay right now. It's just if there's any problems, basically, we can't do anything and we'll be without heating or cooling until we can order a BART unit, which could take some time because there is lead time on ordering these units, as we found with Klatskanai. And then where's the other BART unit that's leaking?
So we have two that are for the MEC and one that's for our main hall.
Yeah, so the main hall right now is using heat strips, which is costing us more money and electricity instead of using the heat pump.
So it's failed and it's on backup.
Yes. So right now we have heating. Come summer, it might get a little toasty in here, or at least in the main hall.
So that's not the one that's leaking R22
The main hall is leaking R22.
and it's the one on heat strips.
Yes, it's the one on
Okay.
heat strips right now.
Just to clarify, the second quote is just for one unit?
So we're getting two quotes from each company, one for the one unit that's leaking the R22, the main hall.
Right.
And then we're also getting quotes for this room that we're in right now. There's two BART units. It's from Split in Half and,
But when you said the second quote, right?
oh, yes.
That's just for the one unit?
Yes, that's just for the one unit.
Just wanted to clarify.
They're working on a 3-unit quote.
No, that's fine. I just want to make sure.
And as
Thank you.
we're just doing discussion.
Yes.
I'll just say for me, obviously the one unit, because it has both the leak and the heat strips, that sounds like it needs to be replaced. No questions about that one. I understand the cost savings of a crane, of doing all three at once. Right now, with the unknown cost of what the radio project could potentially be for replacements. Knowing that without the passing of the local option levy, we are dipping into reserves for the radio. Which, because some reserves are being tapped into for operations, I am hesitant to say, hey, let's go ahead and do all three at once, even though there would be a minor cost savings from the crane. I almost would propose, or and my thoughts would be budget for at least, we're doing one unit a year, starting obviously with the failed one.
Okay.
That way,
Yeah, and I'm agreeing with you, Rob. I think that, we have a maintenance issue that needs to be addressed. This part of the building being low priority, and low usage, those units, you can shut them off in here probably most of the year and nobody would know the difference if the door was shut. So I'm with Rob, we have one that is in the priority part of the building that is failing. We should address that and we should be aware of those other two and then work them into a budgetary process for a few years down the road so that we can address them before they turn into a problem. But again, if this was a dispatch area or someplace that was critical at all times, I would be saying let's replace them all if we have to, but I'm with you on the one.
and if something changes and or radio project ends up being not as spendy as expected, then we could always do the other two sooner, but rather prioritize everything for the radio. So, sorry.
Well, my thoughts are is we aren't having issues with the other two, so why address them until we have issues with the other two? Let's do the one that we have issues with and get it going.
Okay. That is the direction we will take.
I'm in agreement as well. Replace the failed one and let the other two go for now. If they're not totally failed, let's replace the priority and see where we are with radio upgrades. I think the radio upgrade needs to be, not saying the building's not a priority, but I think as far as, like Henry said, we know the one's failed, replace that. But I think we need to see where the radio is, the radio would be a more priority over 2 units that are currently working.
Budget for replacement of one a year, and if we don't have to do it that year, if that money can be used for something else, great. But at least if we have an acute failure, we know that we'll be able to jump on it and get it taken care of.
Yeah,
With two of
this
them
is,
in this
this is
particular
Jeff.
area.
I'm in agreement with that as well. I'm on board.
You know, we have some redundancy in this room too. If we had one of those other units completely fail, that doesn't leave this wing with no heat or AC. I mean, it makes the other one work harder, but I mean, we're pretty covered with that, I think.
Let's see. And what was the estimated cost for replacing one?
The lowest bid we have right now is 18,500 with crane, and then the high end that we have right now is 24,340.
Is
I think. And
Are we just gonna use his spending authority for this project then, or would you like this to come to the board?
Well, we have to get quotes. You've got.
Yeah.
Two.
quotes, yeah.
Um,
But I think my spending authority is what, 20, or is it?
yeah, I think
Yeah.
it is.
So,
So the question for the rest of the board is if after getting quotes, are we comfortable with, it falls within Brian's spending authority to let him go ahead and move forward for sakes of time? It's, things we're talking about a unit that has failed or is failing.
Yes.
If you want to put contingency in that, it's gonna exceed his spending. So I guess the question is do we want to, put are the numbers that you have now solid enough to present, today? Or do we wait till next month's meeting? You can bring us a formal proposal.
Before we proceed, we'll of course contact and obtain a third quote just to make sure we're following due diligence here.
Right.
The contingency, it's an excellent observation. It would narrowly with standard 10% contingency. However, we have replaced these units before and it's pretty well-known process. The advantage here of using a barred unit to replace a barred unit is there's not a lot of surprises that you're likely to encounter. So even with the 18,500, I would be comfortable proceeding there without the contingency. And then if something does happen, we'll of course bring it to the board.
I think the only contingency type thing with that before is just electrical related with some of the previous units. But here we've done a lot of electrical upgrades, so we don't expect that to be an issue.
If there's gonna be any issues.
Do we need to get a third quote on this?
I think we're just gonna do our due diligence and get it. We're running out the heat strips. We're okay. And we have another week to get a third quote.
Obviously, yeah, the third
week.
Well, I'm just saying, we could probably get a third quote in the next week or two.
So
It won't be a problem.
Yeah.
So in other words, you're gonna bring this back to us at next month's meeting to,
Well, if we're okay with the 18,500 under Brian's spending authority, then we might move forward with that. Being that Columbia Northwest is already our maintenance contract, and it would make everything move along smoothly.
I would still also following our standard procurement rules in our district policy guide. It's a small procurement, but it is still a procurement. But we should be able to obtain a third quote without bringing it back to the board. Just 3 quotes, and then I'll approach Brian with the best option that we have.
So as a board, we have an option of doing a authorized amount not to exceed and let them decide upon after receiving the third quotes, or we take action on it next month.
or we can just, if it all falls within Brian's spending authority, you can make the decision, after reviewing all 3 quotes.
So yeah, I'll just ask, is there any motions on the table? Hearing none, no action to be taken, but you got the input that you needed.
Thank you.
And you said there is no need for executive session, is that correct?
I don't have anything.
Okay. If there's no objections from anybody else, I do not believe. Therefore, which brings us on to agenda items for the March 27th meeting. First of all, is March 27th a good date for everybody?
I fly in late on the 26th. So it shouldn't be a problem unless something gets hung up there, but.
Yeah, the 27th looks good for me.
Doesn't look like there's any quorum issues at this time, so we'll stick with the March 27th date. Anything for the agenda? Is there any other business?
I'm sorry, were you gonna address a letter from fire district?
Right?
I mean, that was just part of
Yeah.
the board packet. I didn't know if that was.
I think, yeah, Danelle.
Janelle mentions.
Report on the letter from Chief Smythe. Danelle? I think she might
Yes,
have-
the letter from
Sorry.
Chief Smythe.
It was just, yeah, included in the board packet, and I think you already reported on it, but it was.
Yeah, it was sent to me. Chief Smythe asked me to forward it to the board members, and I wanted to make sure it was mentioned here in the public meeting. As you know, many of the agencies, including us, are dealing with staffing issues. And Columbia River Fire and Rescue has just been extra appreciative of our lead dispatchers going that extra mile and being a little bit more supportive to the resource allocation decisions and supportive to our staff. I have to say they're great role models, and I've been very impressed with the work that they're doing and all of our staff and the hours that they're working.
Well, yourself included, you've been covering some shifts as well, right?
Yeah.
You and Kirby, so. Everybody, yeah.
Member comments. We'll start, Jeff.
Just gonna echo all of that. Just, a shout out to those lead dispatchers and to all the staff. And, to Chief Smythe, it's nice to hear some positive feedback and appreciation. And it seems like a lot of times, what we hear is the negative. So it's very nice to hear the positive. So just appreciate everybody. Keep up the good work.
Brian.
I'll echo the same, positive shout out to staff and dispatchers. It's, they put in the extra effort. Good to hear the positives instead of the negatives. And, keep up the good work. We appreciate it on the north end.
Julie.
I just want to point out Jolene has really, from the beginning to where she is now, came a long ways in a short amount of time. And I just really appreciate hearing that. I'm sure there's others, but that one in particular name stands out, that she's really moved through the process of getting where she is. So it's just appreciated.
Henry.
I just want to say, thanks to Danelle's leadership on this training situation. I mean, I personally feel like this is something we should have been doing all along. I mean, not being afraid of having more than one or two people in training at a time, so that we can hopefully somewhere down the road finally get fully staffed. I mean, in all the years I've been on this board, we have never been fully staffed. So, and we've always authorized full staffing. So keep up the good work on that, and pass that thanks along to all those trainers that I know have to work extra hard to make that happen. And then, staff, you guys are all working your tails off. We appreciate that. And Brian, thank you so much for again stepping up to the plate here to help us through this period of time when we're without a full-time executive director, and look forward to working with you on getting this stuff put together for our director hunt. Yeah.
I just want to echo a little bit off of what Henry said there. It has been a long-standing goal for this district to get up to full staffing, which has always been a moving goalpost, that we have not been quite able to achieve. Have tried changing the training program several different times to try to see what works, what doesn't. So it is very nice to see that we're making progress with some of the recent changes. So as Henry said, great job for all the staff. It looks like we're getting closer to our end goal. Appreciate it. Also wanted to thank Chief Smythe for the letter. I think sometimes, unfortunately, we just kind of assume 911 is always there as something and we don't give it any thought until you have to dial it. So unfortunately, I don't think there's a lot of positive feedback that always comes in. You always hear about the negatives, not always all the positives. So I want to thank Chief Smythe for spending time to send the letter because I think it means a lot to our staff to be able to hear the positives too. And with that, we will be adjourned at 10:01.